You can waste years trying to figure leadership out on your own, years falling behind, years not knowing why you aren't getting the results you expect. Nowadays, there's more leadership content than ever, and most firefighters and officers are drowning in it and still not making progress. That's why we created the Fireground Company membership. This membership isn't for everyone. It's for firefighters and officers who refuse to be average. Once you join, you gain access to the Insider Podcast, Leadership Q&A, where we answer the questions you submit to us, discussion feeds, private resources, exclusive discounts, and more. Right now, we have a founding member discount for the first 50 members to join. Visit firegroundcompany.com before this offer is gone.
On today's episode of the Fireground Company podcast, we discuss training, both at the company level and the department level.
The Fireground Company podcast.
All right, so what are we talking about?
How to effectively train at the company level and department level.
Okay, so training. We're talking about training.
Yep, training.
This is another one of those episodes where it's a challenge because you and I talk about this a lot on the job. And so our mission here is to sort of capture some of, represent hours of conversation we've logged about training and put it here and get our thoughts down in a podcast. So how do we do that? Where do we start?
I'm ready, man.
Okay.
It's not even a challenge. I'm just ready to fire off. Rapid fire.
Well, just for context, the last episode we recorded was the last episode on culture, and I felt like we talked for an hour and got to a place that could be summed up in a sentence. And now I feel like the reverse. Like I feel like I can tell you in one sentence and be done what I feel about training, but that wouldn't make a good podcast episode. So you take the ball.
Oh, I want to know what the one sentence is, though. If you can do it that easily.
Train the basics.
Okay, that's good. I like that. For the most part.
Train the basics.
All right. Good. We're done.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, I guess we're going to break it down at the company level and at the department level. Start with company level, I think.
Yeah, because I take more issue with the department level.
So. Yeah. The company level is, like you said, I mean, you sum it up with the basics. But you got to figure out first, what are the basics? I mean, it's easy to say, like, what are the basics? Well, what really are they? It's deploying hose lines, it's moving hose, it's basic forcible entry, it's putting ladders up to buildings. Those are the basics. That stuff. I mean, I think you can then take those skills and take them beyond the basics. And I think sometimes that's what happens. You have a problem where people think just because I did it once and it was okay, I'm good to go, I did it once, especially if you're doing it in the firehouse parking lot or an open area without the obstacles or stress or anything along those lines. I think people are like, I did it once, I'm ready for the real complicated drill. And then they spend all this time on the complicated drill. And then they go to a call where, they just had something out of place, a car parked in a weird way or something. It throws them off. They can't get the ladder to where it needs to go, or the door has a lot of flex like real doors do, not like the doors that we drill on with these bank vault doors, I always say. And that's what I think happens. People want to go past the basics way too quickly. And they don't stress them, as I like to say, just kind of throw a little more pressure in different ways. But yeah, so I mean, it starts with the basics, and then you also start then looking at where do you have problems, right? Where do I have problems? What isn't going smoothly? After you run a few calls or do some drills, you're going to start to see stuff like that. And then that's where you need to focus and figure out, well, why are you having a problem? Why is this an issue? And then you just, you repeat it over and over, and that's pretty much it. But what does that look like, I guess, is really the question. How do you go about doing that? I mean, I think it starts with the skill itself. So when you're teaching these skills, I'm a big believer in starting slow. And a lot of, I see people are trying to overload new rookies and everything else. And they're trying to be, maybe this is a little bit of ego getting in there. And they're like, come on, go like faster, do this, that. And it's like, well, what are they learning, man? Of course, they're probably going to screw up because you're putting all that pressure on them. And you may have some other firefighters in your company that may screw up, but they're not under the gun right now like that rookie is. But people want to add that pressure way too quick. I don't like doing that. I mean, we talk about the crawl, walk, run, but it's so true. It's such a good principle to really understand, where start slow, get the steps right, get them in line, and then do them over and over where you don't have to think through them. Because that's the problem. You may do the steps of whatever you're trying to learn, and you don't do them enough to the point where you don't have to really think about each step. It's, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I put my hand here, I do this. You get to a point, if you've done it enough, where I know where to put I know where to put my hands. I know I'm thinking about more the problem in front of me than each little step. So get the steps right, and then practice with maybe just a little more speed at a normal pace. Now you're at a normal pace. And what I mean by, I guess, maybe normal isn't a good word, but more of like a walking steady pace, like a smooth walk, steady pace. And then from there, maybe you do that. You do that in the parking lot of the firehouse, or you do that at, your training academy or something like that. Then take that to other places as much as possible. So, I mean, it's easy with hose lines, right? We can go anywhere, and deploy lines for the most part. And maybe you have to vary that. You can't go to the same spot every time because, the apartment complex is going to get mad at you, or the homeowners, so you got to vary it, which is good because you got to vary where you train all the time, because you're going to show up to different places and have different looks. But go from there, and try and get some different looks at different things. I mean, the opportunities when we run calls, if it's that you don't have a fire, but you can throw a ladder and at least practice getting that ladder in position without busting something up, do that. Use that opportunity. And then a lot of times add speed to that. Just get a little faster, not out of control, but a little faster. I'm not a big fan of like running on the Fireground and everything else, but moving with purpose, moving smoothly in a direction. But I still think, and I was talking to you about this earlier, where at a certain point, I think you need to go back and then do the skill slow again to see if you've added any, you've started cutting any corners or picked up some bad habits, because they're hard to identify when you're going fast. A lot of times we'll notice when we're working with people on the engine deploying lines, and their lines get kind of messed up and we can't really figure it out. You got to look at it, and you figure out they do a weird thing with their hands or something like that. And you're like, that's why your line's all twisted up, man. So, and I don't know, all the time I hear I'll talk to an officer and I'm like, yeah, we do all that. It's like, do you really do all that? Do you really? Yeah. And they always want to look for the next cool thing. But then when you see their crew doing something, they're messing up on the easiest things. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, that's the core of it. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I can go a little more on that, but
the words don't matter, but we use the terminology drill and train a lot. But what I heard you just say a couple of times, and I think this kind of matters in a weird way, is practice. We need to practice.
Yeah.
We were talking about Pavel this morning, and that's one of the things he talks about, is that not every single session do you need to work out. We use that term a lot, workout, or, he says, think about sometimes practice strength. And what does that mean? It means getting better at the mechanics instead of just pushing yourself to the absolute limit every single time, because all that teaches you is essentially to fail, right? And so that's the workout world. But I remember hearing that and being like, yeah, practice. Okay, practice. That word practice, it implies something, right? It implies that you sit there and you work on something until you get it right. And that's something that we don't do enough of, I think, is just taking a simple skill. We like the basic stuff: forcible entry, conventional forcible entry, pulling hose lines, stretching hose lines, moving hose lines, ladders, search, all that stuff. Each one of these things are skills that you can practice. And yes, eventually you get to a point where you drill it, but that like drilling it is useless if you haven't practiced the skill that you are going to drill on. Right. And you think there's an easy analogy here to sports, right? You practice skills first before you do full on drills, before you do scrimmage, before you do game. Right. I think there's an obvious analogy here to what all those things can mean for the fire department. But we do plenty of scrimmaging with these big scenario based things, but what we don't do enough of is practice.
It made me think about talking about sports and everything else. Is I know I'm going to make some people angry with this that are going to disagree, and that's fine.
Send it,
whatever. But the whole thing, the being in gear and doing all the tire flipping and the pushing stuff and the all that, the conditioning. I understand what people are trying to do, but I think sometimes when you get too far down that road and you start mixing it with the skills of the job, that's where you can start having these problems with cutting corners on the skill itself, where you're picking up some bad habits because fatigue is starting to become such a factor. Are you going to be tired on the Fireground? Yeah, you're going to be tired. But a lot of times you're not going to flip a tire 50 times and then pull a hose line. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
And it's to me, it's like, you got to be careful with that, man. I mean, separating that stuff, just putting the gear on, right? Putting the gear on, going through the steps, there's some fatigue. It's not overwhelming. Of course not. But it's restrictive. It creates problems with communication, vision, all these other things. Those are there, right? But if you're doing the stuff where you're conditioning in the gear and you're doing the skills of the job, I think that's the issue. Also, I mean, there's another thought process to this where I guess maybe because I'm older or whatever, where I just want to kind of separate my conditioning a little, where when I'm doing conditioning, everything else, I'm swinging kettlebells or I'm doing squats or bench press, whatever it may be. I want to focus on that, make sure my form is good, make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing the right way, and I'm not going to get an injury because I'm pushing myself to the limit. Because you get an injury as you get older, or even when you're younger, man, sometimes that sets you back a long, long time. So for me, if I'm doing conditioning, I want to focus on conditioning. And if I'm doing a drill, I want to focus on that. I don't want to mix them too much. I don't want to muddy those waters where I have the bad habits or I have an unnecessary injury that doesn't make sense. I get it. I mean, if that's your thing, you want to flip tires, you want to hit stuff with sledgehammers, all that, okay. Just be careful. And I would say keep the maybe the pulling the hose lines or the, really forcing like some kind of training door or something along those lines. Separate that so you don't pick up all these nasty little bad habits that are hard to fix and are going to create more problems. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand. I mean, we were talking about culture previously, and that can build a good culture of everyone PTing together and everything else. But you got to be aware of that, how that muddies the waters and creates problems.
Yeah, I think doing a workout in fire gear is moronic. So,
all right, you can get some people mad at you. That's good.
I think it's moronic. I think it's stupid. I've never seen a direct correlation between people who work out in their bunker gear and their performance on the Fireground.
It's out there though, man. A lot of people do it.
But that's a good point. I mean, I see what you're saying.
To me, I'm not going to do it, but if you're going to do it, keep them separated. There's two worlds. The other thing is with that is you got to be careful on shift, man. It's one thing if you're doing it off shift, man, but if you're beating yourself into the ground, and it doesn't even have to be in gear and everything else, you could do such a such a workout that you're physically beat down, where you get a call or you get a box. I mean, I've done stuff like that a few times where I realized I was like, this is a little bit of a mistake. So, I mean, you can mix the two to a certain degree. And I'll give you the example I may have said before, but one of my favorites, if you can do it, is for us, we have a good number of high rises, mid rises. So I realized over time, this drill just became, we weren't in gear. We were just like, whatever, regular workout clothes. And we were just carrying the standpipe packs up and down the building just for time, for like whatever, 30 minutes, go up and down the floors and pass them off, something along those lines. That was one thing. But then I wanted to incorporate an actual drill with it. So to me, this is the correct way to, if you want to do mixed conditioning and see what you can do and practice for actually what you would do in real life, is put your gear on, put your SCBA on, all that, and grab your standpipe packs and whatever else you bring up, your irons, and pick a tall building in your area. Or if you're going to build up to the tall building, pick a lower, story building, go up to whatever level makes sense. Just walk up and then deploy the standpipe packs. That is exactly what could happen in real life. And it takes some conditioning. You're going to be stressed. It's going to make the deployment a little harder because now you're tired, but that's all real. That's exactly what's going to happen. And you can make that as hard as you want by going as high up as you want if you have a tall building. So to me, that's kind of the mix of that. But that's still, from the way I look at it, that's more of a drill than it is like conditioning. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what else do we unpack with the company drills? I mean, I think you got to have some in your pocket. You got to have some short ones and some longer drills. I mean, the timing, as far as that goes, I think you could have a busy day, so you got to have something that you can do if you're trying to get something done that day, where maybe it's like 15 minutes to 30 minutes is, to me, I would call that a short drill, where maybe you're just going to talk about something. You're going to pick one aspect of a skill, or maybe you're just going to talk about something that recently happened at another fire and just reinforce that. Or you're driving and you're like, hey, let's just take a look at where the entry doors are on this building right here. Or where's the hydrant and FDC on this? Or, you think, what does it look like on side Charlie of that building? Can we get around there? Those are easy things you could do. And then you have the longer drills, and those are, for me, I'm thinking like 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Beyond an hour and a half, I mean, people, I don't know, it's too much, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just your retention level of firefighters and everything, it just diminishes, man. You go past an hour and a half, especially if you're talking about having people in gear and stuff like that. You're not getting a return at that point for the amount of effort you're probably putting in. So, I mean, I think, I don't know. You gotta focus it, man. So have a few different things you can do, and just on a rainy day or a day where you're busy, and have some other drills that are, more built out. I was thinking of another, I know people listening to this, or some of you doing this, is you've seen the ones where the officer has they come up with a schedule every single day for like 3 months or something.
It never worked out.
No, it doesn't. I kind of thought about it. I remember I had an officer before I was promoted that did that, and I did notice he had all this planned out, and we got to like 2 or 3 things just because other things always started getting in the way. Yeah. It's like you can plan all that out. It just, I don't know, maybe if you're if you're trying to do this on duty and it's really slow, maybe you can get through all that. But usually what happens is you're going to get calls that'll throw it off. You're going to get other mandatory departmental training that comes out, or you're going to get, you know what I mean? There's all these things that throw it off, or you're going to run a call or something where you're like, hey, we need to work on that. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And
that'll take priority.
So I know whoever you are out there, if you have that, I mean, it's admirable that you're trying that. But I don't do that. I've realized over the years, and we're at a pretty busy company, I realized I have an idea of what I'm trying to do. So a general idea of working on some kind of, like I said, just real simple stuff, forcible entry, hose lines. And I'll kind of I'll build up to that. Maybe there's like 2 or 3 like components I want to work up to, and I'll just plug them in when they make sense. So I'm not, today we have to do it unless there's something I need to do for the rookie or something like that. We have to stay on a certain, I guess, timeline or pace. But it's like, okay, does this make sense to do it today? Is this a good day to do it? Can we do it? So I'll have 2 or 3 things that I'll do over the course of a few days, and then I'm flexible with that. And maybe I have, in my head, a few little things, like if that doesn't work out, I just kind of throw out there and we talk about, but I'm always also modifying it. We'll run a call or we'll see a bill and I was like, that was kind of weird. Let's work on this. But that to me is the way to do it. That long schedule, man.
Yeah.
never works out. I don't know. I haven't seen it work out.
Yeah. Well, and it's training for a different reason. It's almost like you train. It's almost like the checkbox version of training, where you're not training dynamically and responding to the weak points in your company are, or what things that you actually do in real life on the job are. It's you suddenly get this list of things, and it actually becomes more about getting through your list than it does about actually doing productive training.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, just rushing through it and saying, "Oh, we completed it." It's like, we're not really that great at it yet.
Yeah, well, and I don't know if you're done with company training yet, but that seems like the perfect time to transition to department training.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Which that seems to be the nature of department level training, which is let's do it to say we did it and move on to the next thing. And I'm gonna try to be real careful with how I talk about it, because I don't want to badmouth anything. What I want to get to is how do we get better at department level training, and not just sit here and trash what I've seen, and not just from our department. I've seen it across the board. So this is in at least some of the regional training departments and trainings that I've been to and things like that. There's something in the water, and it's infecting the training departments of a lot of places. So
yeah,
let's talk about what good department level training looks like and accomplishes.
Well, I guess first I want to break this down a little. So you have, like, I think we both understand, there's the mandatory training. So there's certain things. Yeah, I get it. Infectious control, that kind of stuff. There's certain things I get that have to be completed, that aren't fun, that, there's not.
Yeah, of course.
We get that. That makes sense. I was just going to jump into this now. And then there's the computer and online training stuff can be, a lot of times can go wrong. So thinking back on my career, which is not that long, but it's over 20 years. And I was thinking about early on, a lot of times when we had department training, not necessarily the mandatory stuff, but we wanted to talk about, basement fires or some aspect of the job, whatever it may be, the department would have to prioritize that. And they would have to say at that level, it's like, okay, this is what we want to do. And then they would have to make time, because you didn't have all the online learning. You would have to make time for the companies to come down, and you'd sit there and you didn't have I guess really we didn't have cell phones the way we have now, screens and everything else. But at the same time, even now I've seen it where if you actually bring the people down, you can control the cell phones to a pretty good degree. Mm-hmm. So you're stuck there. You're concentrating. You're focused on it. You have no choice. You have to be there, and it's feedback and everything else. And I mean, the department has to prioritize that. They have to decide what they want to do, because there's only so much time, right? There's only so much time that we have. And there's only so much we can do, and we're going to be there. We're captive audience. The problem I've noticed with the online training stuff is, because the department can just kind of add a whole bunch of things, Yeah, it's good because you can sometimes replay that stuff, go back to it. But the problem is it doesn't have to be prioritized as far as what's really important.
Just
Yeah, because it's not, they don't have to take into account getting companies, rotating them down, making sure everyone gets it, all that kind of stuff. So you have to be really serious about what you're doing. Whereas now with a lot of the online stuff, you talk to, and this is everywhere, this is every department I pretty much, you talk to, if they do a lot of the online stuff, is they just put a lot of stuff out there and it's like, oh, okay. A lot of times it's not even vetted too. It's some of this stuff is not developed internally, which can be good and bad, but some of it's just the stock stuff you get from some of these companies out there, and the value isn't there. And then the other problem you have is, so you can add these, like they'll have tests at the end of some of this training, right? You take the test, you can take it a whole bunch of times, or it gets out, everyone knows the answers or something along those lines. Are they really learning anything though? They're not paying attention to it. Sometimes you're overwhelming people and they have so much going on. I've had points over the years where so much stuff was being pushed out. It just could not do it. I just could not do it. And I have it running kind of on low volume while I'm doing reports and other things, typing emails. Am I really getting that training? I'm not getting that training. So that's, I think, the big problem with a lot of the electronic stuff is it's just this. Again, it goes back to the checkbox thing where you're saying we did it, but did we do it? We didn't really do it. It wasn't prioritized. We're saying we're hitting all these things, but we talk about this a lot. We're not getting the return.
No. Well, and again, I think we've talked about this too. I think there's a time and a place for the digital training. There actually is some great uses for it.
Yes.
But we've gone way past that now. And some of the really there's some of that stuff you talked about where there's exposure to it, or there's review, or something that's like a walkthrough of this, new piece of apparatus or equipment or something like that. Those are great uses for the digital component. And just as a sidebar, my wife is in education, and she was recommended this book called The Digital Delusion, and it's about how technology is getting into the education world, right? And I've seen it. I think you probably haven't seen it as much because you homeschool, but in public schools, they're doing a lot of stuff on laptops, and there's all these different digital, essentially the equivalent in the education world of our online training
stuff,
yeah. And there's a big backlash to it, and there's a lot of studies coming out that are saying, like,
I was gonna say that,
like, this is not good. It not only is it not good, it's counterproductive, and there's all of these symptomatic side things that are happening. Now, I haven't read that book yet, but I am extremely interested in it. And in fact, my wife, like I said, being in education, is interested in it too, because she has seen that. She's seen this digital component taking away from the effectiveness of education. So we had both agreed that sort of from our perspective here, I was interested in that book and she's interested in it. So we agreed that we were going to read it together at some point. So at some point, I'm curious to see how much this study, it's basically, this book is a study about that, what I can take away from that and apply to this too. So I'll at some point I'll come back and update you on that. But it's just, I guess the point is to say that it's been taken too far, all that computer.
Yes, it has, and it's not. I don't know. It's not integrated well. There's, like we said, there's a time and a place, and technology is good, but the way we're using it, I think overall in the entire, across the country in fire departments, it's creating a lot of problems. I mean, the other thing I've noticed, and this is across the board, all different people I talk to in all different places, is anything you put online, especially at the department level, tends to get devalued now. If they put it on these online learning platforms, like, it's garbage, and people don't pay attention to it. And so we think we're doing all this stuff, and we're not. We're not getting the knowledge that we think we're putting out there for people. They're not getting that. I mean, and people have the attitude of, oh, if it's on an online learning place, it's not, there's no value to it, because they're just putting out, again, we're not prioritizing stuff. And we're just thinking that we got that done. I mean, got to be careful with that, man. That is a beast that has to be tamed and has to be acknowledged at the highest level of fire departments all the way down, and say, what is our plan for using this?
Mhm.
And you have to have an actual plan and can't just put stuff on there.
Mhm.
I mean,
I agree.
so, I mean, the other thing I was thinking at the department level is I remember I was telling you about, again, another place I worked where they had this initiative where they wanted to get, they had some incidents where they had some firefighters in some bad spots, some, RIT situations, some guys got burned, injured, stuff like that. So they really want to step up that part of the training. So they came up with, it was pretty good. They came up with a plan where it was, I was like, this concept is great, where it was all day. So it was all day in the sense that it was like a work day. So it was like an 8-hour day. I know, like you're saying that's a lot. But what it was is it was all practical stuff. It was paced well. You would go down to the fire academy, the in-service companies. You'd go out of service. You were down there for 8 hours. You could, whatever, bring the lunch or whatever. You had a lunch break. Everything else was kind of cool. They had a grill and everything, so you could cook there at the fire academy. It was cool. But anyway, you had a morning session where I believe it was like 3 skills. It was like 3 skills for, RIT, saving firefighters, doing some different things, and you work through those. You had your lunch break, and then you had three more skills in the afternoon. They cycled all the companies down. Everyone got that training. And I was like, that's a really good way of doing it, because a lot of times when you do stuff, and fire departments will do training things, it's you focus on one thing, you kind of go down there, and then it's just off to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that focused, this is what we're going to do. I don't know, man. It just seemed like I absorbed the information a little better. And I was thinking, I know I'm kicking around with you, like just the idea of, of having it depends on your resources and stuff, but let's say this is hard for you to do, have like a 3-year cycle maybe, where you have, 1 year is you worry about just the kind of the engine company box, right? And then the next year you worry about the truck stuff. And then the 3rd year is the RIT stuff. And what you do is maybe 6 things total. Like I said, same kind of model. You're out of service for those 8 hours. You go down there, other company, if you can do that, and everything else. And you have, I don't know, maybe like 3 things that are the standard you always do, right? So it's whatever that's going to make sense for everyone else. It just depends. Like for us, I would say it would be something like, all right, you have a standpipe deployment. Every year when we do the engine stuff, we're going to do that. You have something maybe extending a long line. You do that. And then the 3rd one is, I know, moving hose on stairs, deploying hose on stairs. That always seems to be a major issue. So something on that. So, everyone is getting that minimum level of training on the engine company. And then you kind of look back at over the last 3 years, 2 years, whatever, and you say, hey, these are some problems we've noticed. These are the 3 other drills that you're going to do, because these are problems that companies have run into, and we want to clear those up. Gives a bunch of flexibility, focuses your training, and then you do the same thing with the ladder companies, and the same thing with RIT stuff. You have a 3 core drills, and then 3 drills from issues you want to clean up. And I mean, I just like, man, I think that would, I don't know, that's what I think would work real well.
I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a great idea. I would love to see it happen. And then there's something we've talked about this. There's something about that concentrated effort. I mean, a lot of people, even I've been to a couple of truck schools where it's 2 days in a row. It's a weekend or something like that, and it's all truck stuff, and it's a lot. But every time I do that concentrated training, more than just 45 minutes on this random thing, it's like there's something about spending a day on it. Even like you said, just 8 hours. That it really hits you different. It really gets your brain in that headspace of thinking about those skills and applying it, and it sticks with you. So, and I mean, of course, on a department level, doing something like that would start to create some cohesion of how we do things, and if it's repeated even every 3 years, that's that can start to create a way that
Gives you a baseline.
we do things, a baseline.
Yeah,
right?
because I mean, I think the problem you have sometimes is you have each company kind of comes up sometimes with their own little way of doing things, or different even shifts in the same firehouse. And at the very least, if you have a baseline where you have people moving between different firehouses and everything else, if I don't know much about this person, but everyone knows the baseline, I'm like, hey, this is what we're doing today, or I'm on overtime, or I'm detailed in. This is what we're doing today. So I mean, I think that. That's really important. And you can have your own little way of doing things. That's fine. But if everyone knows if we have people from different firehouses, this is how the department this is a baseline we can at least all do together. So I just think
I like that too, because the breakdown, you said 3 and 3, 3 sort of core skills, and then 3 specific sort of addressing things that they've gone that accomplishes 2 really powerful things at once. And one is, again, we've talked about is drilling the basics and practicing the basics and doing them. And again, it's not this, it's, hey, let's practice. Let's do, just like in baseball, we say, let's do a little bit of BP, right? A little batting practice. We're not testing you. We're just letting you get out there and do the skills, and we'll tweak this, little things here and there, but it's really about doing it. So you have those core skills, and then you're actually doing training that is addressing things that you've seen gone wrong. And I think that's something we don't do enough of at a department level. So, I mean, we talked about, and I think you have a video on YouTube about hot washes, and so that, it kind of starts there, where like right after the fire, we don't take accountability for some of the things that went wrong, but that goes on to become a problem in training too, where I don't think we're actually looking at what we're struggling with as a department, on a company level, and addressing that. Instead, we go into these crazy what if worlds about things that have happened at some point in some time in some department far away, but we don't actually look at the stuff that we're struggling with our people, with our first dues, and our tools and our rigs, and what's going wrong specifically. What are the weak points? Or maybe if it doesn't even have to be something that went incredibly wrong. It could just be a pattern, something that we see is slipping, a struggle.
I always say like friction points,
a friction point, a weak point, or something that just, or I mean. It could be the other side of it. It could be like, hey, we did this thing and it went really, really well, or this really worked for me. Like, I've tried a couple
push that out to other people,
and push that out and just say, hey, what do you want to try this? This worked really well. We don't do enough of that. We do this random blind. I feel like it's reach into a hat with drills on it, pull something out. And so anyways, to round out my point here, I like that combination of 3 core skills, as you called it, and 3 specific.
I'm gonna take time out. I have to use the bathroom.
Okay.
I'm gonna jump off into something else, and it's like that was a perfect stopping point. I was like, dude, I've drank way too much coffee. I'll be right back. Yeah, so that's interesting when we think about, you have 3 things we do, and then the 3 things that, 3 consistent things that we work on every single time, and then the 3 areas where, like I said, to me, the friction points or whatever, you want to push out good stuff. But you talk about how, I guess, everywhere is different, right? Every fire department's different, first do. Yes and no.
Yeah.
You think about that, yes and no.
When you said that, I was just, my immediate thought was like, yeah.
Yeah, but... So I don't know. I got on this track where I started thinking about what do we really do? Like, what are the actual skills that we do, and they're repeatable when you really break them down to, I guess, the smallest levels. Where we talk about moving hose line, right? What are we doing? We're moving hose line upstairs, or you're moving hose line around a corner, or you're throwing a ladder, different height window, or, again, those are the forcible entry, the steps. Well, the steps, there's nuance to all that, but I don't know, the hose line stuff, obviously, because we're on an engine, usually that's where we are. I just think about like, and I think we had this, we were talking about, burn buildings and stuff like that. Like a lot of burn buildings aren't really that great.
Yeah.
To work. Cause what are we really doing?
Oh, we have, maybe one day we'll put this out there. I think the other day we sat down on a whiteboard and we designed the perfect training facility, and it's super simple and can be built super cheap. But anyway, that's a different conversation.
Well, what you need is you really just need to, you talk about this stuff, you're just going around corners and stuff like that. So what do you got to practice? Think about just practice moving hose around corners. Find an area where you can do that, or moving hose. Like we really hit the step thing, because that, to us, it seemed like that was a problem where a lot of people are having issues. We were having issues, but what do we, steps are steps.
Mm-hmm.
There's variables, but there's not so much that,
there's only two types. There's ones that go up and ones that go down.
Yeah.
Right?
There's maybe a different number. So you have a run of steps that are maybe like 20, or, you have a run that's like 5 or 6, and
Steps
maybe you have
steps.
Yeah. You have a landing here. There's like little things to it, but there's not that much diversity in it where you can work on, if you're talking about, that skill, you can just work on moving hose on steps. And that's a skill that just you use over and over and over. And that's a problem a lot of people have, or deploying hose on steps, dry or charged, or how do you make those decisions? I mean, you really break it down. That's where we have the problems. And it's not that complicated, but it's not that, I don't know. It's not cool, man. People, it's so funny. It's again, it's back to that conversation with the other officers. Like, what do you do? It's like, I do pretty much the same things. There's just little variables to it. But what are you doing, man? I mean, your fires are that different. You're deploying a hose line, and the space that you have, there's like some obstacles, and you're moving hose line around, around the corner to the left, the corner to the right. You're hooking like a, little U-turn going back this way. You got maybe some tables and chairs and sofas in your way. You got some,
that's another thing, is the stuff.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
If I'm going to build a burn building, I would have a big container of stuff, and I'm sure some departments are doing this, but the ones around us don't do enough of it. We did a drill one time where we had 2 railings that were a walkway, and we just grabbed everything. I mean, I think we were literally grabbing stuff out of a dumpster and just throwing it in there. And it was maybe, I don't know, 10 feet at the most of stuff. And it didn't really matter. It was like pallets and boxes and stuff. It wasn't actual furniture or anything. And it was just move through this. That was it. Yeah. That was it. And it was a really good drill.
Felt more real.
It did. I remember getting through that and being like, that felt like moving hose line.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you don't need the burn building. You don't have to, and even if you have one, you don't need the burns as much. I mean, there's value in that, but there's more value.
It's not what you think it is.
Yeah, there's more value in moving the hose line or searching in that area. If there is like stuff, searching around that, coordinating those movements, that there's more value in that than there is necessarily just having the fire, because the fire is so controlled nowadays, the way, you have to burn and everything, that there's only so much you can do. And I get that. I get the safety side and everything else, but just, practicing opening the hose line up, moving it around corners, searching, coordinating that, getting a ladder, doing VES, all that, all those things. I mean, there's only so much. I mean, I don't know. I like that. And I like that stuff too. It's just fun. That's the fun stuff, preparing for the fire,
Yeah.
So
this, let me transition with this, is what do you see the value of scenario-based training? I know that there is some. I feel like we do a little bit too much of it, tell me how that plays in. How can it be done right? How is it done wrong at department level training?
I think one thing I'll say is, if you're going into the scenario-based training, how it fails is, I think, when the instructors try and play an I got you game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if that's what you're doing as an instructor, you're screwing up. Yeah, there's a place for that, but it's just not helpful. It just isn't. And the other issue is, kind of get into it here, but just to kind of set the set things right is some of the imaginary stuff. What's hard is you're asking people some of these scenarios to make decisions on things that are imaginary, right? An imaginary amount of smoke or an imaginary fire. And it's hard. What you got is what you got. And it's like, well, what I got is I got a burn building with a little bit of fire that's not a hazard, and I really don't have any problems. I'm going to react to that totally different than a real fire. And that's kind of the problem with that. It's like you can only go so far. I get that. So it's like some of the instructors have to understand if you're going to play an imaginary game, you almost have to grab them and say, hey, right now, the heat is so intense, it's pushing you to the ground. Get down, make your decisions based on that. Okay, that helps a little. Or this is what you got right here. You know what I mean? You got to really make sure they grab it. I mean, the pictures, even there's problems with that. They'll show you, this is what you have in a picture. And you're like, it's just different. Mm-hmm. So that stuff you have to be clear on. But the scenario-based stuff is, I think you have to think about how the fires go. There's communication that gets cut off. So you only get certain messages. Or you have little problems, but the little problems become big problems, which are maybe misdirection. There's a little confusion about where do we deploy the hose line or something. Do I go this way or that way? And you can add stuff like that in, but a lot of the I gotcha stuff or you're adding too many, because I guess usually what happens with those, I think sometimes is they add, when they're developing those drills, they're adding so many layers in. Mm-hmm. That's just like, that's not happening like that. I mean, it just doesn't feel right.
Is there any correlation between complexity and results? Improvement? No.
Yeah, I mean, stress the drills, but stress them in realistic ways.
Yeah. Look, this is, and I've said this to you before, this is what I wish we would do more of, and it's the crawl, walk, run thing. Mm-hmm. I wish they would bring us down, and we'd start with just a talk and say, "Look, today's drill is really about, I don't know, pick your poison, moving hose lines,
or
laddering
VES
buildings,
or whatever,
VES, search in this situation, and let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about, here are the things that are going to trip you up with this. Here are some of the skills. What do you guys think? Do you guys got something to overcome this? All right, cool. Then we walk, right, and it's all right. Here is the skill. So for VES, let's say laddering, taking out the window, entering, and we're gonna walk through this and go through that. All right, now step 3, we run. We'll do a scenario-based drill using those skills. So you top it up. The thing is, I feel like our training sets us up for failure constantly instead of giving us the tools for success and then implementing that. Because again, what are we practicing? If these complicated drills take us all these different directions, and got the gotchas. What are we practicing? We're practicing failure. Whereas what I wish they would do is they'd set us, literally tell us, this is how you win today. This is how you win today. This is, here's the skill set that we're teaching, and here's how you get good at it. You guys ready? Yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's practice success.
Yeah. I think it's almost more the recruit school mindset where you're trying to just train them for the skills and maybe a little more at the company level, instead of setting up the scenario where we're like you said, you got you this, that, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the other thing that becomes a problem is the timing. I noticed, because some people will focus on that, and the problem with timing is you gotta really think about what you're going to time, right? I've seen it where people will time people's like, from the second you pull the parking brake to the second you have, I don't know, a line on the second floor. Like, what are you really timing? There's so many variables in every fire. I mean, what'll happen is, what I've seen people focus on the timing so much to get it done so quick that they end up doing a lot of things that in real life are going to get them in trouble. Okay. I mean, like one example, I remember I was watching this officer, and it was like they had a fire on the floor below, and they had I guess they took an uncharged hose line above the fire, and the scenario was pretty much like a single family house. And it's just like, dude, you're going to get yourself into trouble. You know, you're so worried about getting the time. I was like, oh, they had the fastest time. Yeah, but I know how that company operates in real life. They cut a lot of corners and they're not dependable, and there's a lot of problems with them. And okay, that's great. But you just rolling the dice on some of that stuff. You're not doing things. You didn't take a look over here to make sure, that there was no fire here. Or you didn't do, and that's the problem. Like if you're going to time, like what are you going to time? You can time masking up, right? Mm-hmm. You can time it from the point they start masking up. Like, okay, there's value in that. Cool. There's maybe some of the driver stuff. Maybe there's value at a certain point of getting your water supply set up from, okay, there's some value in that. Mm-hmm. But these things where you're making decisions and you can kind of go in different directions, I don't know, man. You get into trouble with some of that stuff because sometimes the right move is to just have the firefighter hold up with the shoulder load here. I need to check something. And there's a lot of use in that. And if the drill, a lot of times it gets out, people know about it. And that's the other problem with these I gotcha games. It gets out there and people know how, they know exactly. And they're set. And it's like you have a company that is there in real life. It's like they're a complete mess. And then you're seeing them in a drill and you're like, what in the world? That's like the best performance ever. It's like, well, they scripted out what they were going to say on the radio. They planned what they were going to do exactly. But if you put any variables into that, it doesn't work like that. It just falls apart. So you got to be careful with that stuff. You get the timing has to be specific where it's locked into a certain thing, a certain skill where there's not a lot of variables to it. I mean, even the doors, a lot of times these, the forcible entry props, right? It's like, well, it depends on how many pieces of wood or how, is the wood been sitting around for a while or has it been soaking in water? Or is sometimes you're doing those, this breaks quicker than that. I mean, it's just, so you're timing the guy and to a certain extent, I get it. But at the same time, it's just things you can't control,
Yeah. I think speed has to be a result of skill, not a substitute for it.
Yeah.
And I know we say it a lot, and there's a couple of different versions of this quote, but essentially, slow is smooth, smooth is quick, and the smoother you get things, and I think this is true for a lot of stuff, even masking up. I mean, yeah, you can just try to do it quickly, but what works better is get your skill set down and then do it over and over and over until it's smooth, and then smooth becomes quick. That's what that means, and that's true with a lot of things, even forcible entry, which we've seen these just epic battles with doors in training, and even that though, if you've worked the skill set and you know how to work through your steps, you're gonna get it, and it might slow you down a little bit, but it's gonna be a lot faster ultimately than just hacking at it and trying to figure out this thing or that thing. And then we've certainly seen it with deploying hose lines, is when you know exactly what you're doing and it just happens, it's gonna naturally be a little quicker because speed is the result of skill, not the other way around.
Yeah. Oh, it's like yesterday. We were out there. Had a guy detailed in, a rookie, and we were going over deploying hose on stairs, right? Which is a big problem in the fire department. A lot of mistakes made. This is one of the things when you talk about hose line, there's a lot of mistakes made with that, especially dry hose. And we showed him. We took him through and we showed him what happens. The stuff that goes wrong when we had him kind of do it and screw up on purpose, allow that to happen. And then we walked them through what's a lot easier so they can see the value in that. And it's like, okay, this is what usually happens, but isn't this cool, but it's works really well. And then, they got to see in their head. I mean, we didn't time it, but you could tell this was a lot faster than bringing all that hose in the stairwell on your shoulder and then having to pull half of it out because it's all kinked up or it's all over the place versus what we were doing where we laid it out outside and just simply walked it up and then would charge it. So, I mean, stuff like that and training at the company level, and you can make that a department drill, but it's like the value in that, it's huge. you know, because now you showed them the problems that can happen. You showed them the solution and you let them do it. And now they have that level of confidence. I mean, the stair drill we do all the time. We take a charged hose line, put it to the base of a stairwell. That's the equivalent of pretty much 6 stories. And then 4 people, one, you know, the driver can't go inside the stairwell, but they can move hose outside, one person on the nozzle. And you have pretty much 2 other people humping hose, moving that charged hose line up to the 6th floor. Super easy drill, super simple. The value, it's huge. How often do you have to take a charged hose line up 6 stories? Virtually never. We don't. I mean, most fire departments don't have to do that. But how many times do you have to do it 2 stories, 3 stories? That's easy. If you're doing once a month, you're going out there and you're doing like a 6-story building. Yeah. I mean, that's such an easy drill. And it's just, you got to do that for us. To me, I like to do that once a month. Yeah. And it just makes you
may
build
not
confidence.
Have to do that, but I've also never had to hit a tire with a hammer.
Correct. So, yeah. But I mean, it's, you know, I don't know. It's fun. It's challenging. It's hard. I mean, you talk about like a workout. We're not doing anything extra than we would do in that situation. We're just in gear, SCBA on, everything else, and that tires you out. The hose line is hard. There's a level of conditioning there, and then usually we get the line to the 6th floor landing, and then everyone walks up and then just does a rep of masking up. It's a good rep of masking up because now I'm tired. Probably as tired as I'm ever going to be trying to mask up, you know? So it's a good, man, simple stuff like that. You just got to find things like that and reinforce those. And just because you did it once doesn't mean you can't do it again. And, you know, we think it's like one and done. No, you're going to forget that. You're going to get rusty.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's a lot there. There's another thing I was thinking during that is something that I, at some point in my career, recognized I was really bad at, and I'm still not great in trying to figure out how to get better, is operating in low or no visibility. And I think we go about training that the wrong way too. We do, and again, don't misunderstand me. There's incredible value in doing no visibility training, right? Like whatever it is. But I also think that can go wrong too, right? Just with it's like we throw a mask on and make people do things blind before they even really know how to do it.
Yeah,
where they can see. Good point. And I think there's some good ways to train low visibility stuff, but again, I think it has to be a crawl, walk, run thing. Mm-hmm. Just because you black somebody out and tell them to do something doesn't mean that they're getting better. It's pressure too soon. We operate in no visibility a lot. That's something I learned very quick in my career, is you have to be able to operate without seeing. It is really important. I'd like to figure out better ways to train that from the ground up instead of just blacking somebody out and saying, do it. I've had some success with some certain things, and usually it has to do with let's go blacked out and do just a very simple search drill. Mm-hmm. And we used to do one where we would put a football somewhere in a room, and you had to go mm-hmm. in, you had to find the football. And the point wasn't that you're ever going to be searching for a football, of course. The point was just to get comfortable mm-hmm. breathing air in a dark environment and trying to figure out your way around it. And I have a good friend that ended up in the Seattle Fire Department, who he was smart beyond compare, like almost too smart. But he did a whole thesis in grad school. It was called Wayfinding in Smoke. And I am not smart enough to understand anything he said, but maybe one day I'll spend more time, or maybe, if this person ever listens to this podcast, maybe you could explain it to me. But I think it's a great idea. But anyway, that's another point. That's another thing that can go one way or the other. I think we need to train it. We need to train operating in no visibility, but it doesn't necessarily mean you throw a blackout mask on somebody, say, do this skill, and you've gotten better. You operating in low visibility.
Yeah, I think a good way to, a good example of that for a skill is take the rip pack or something. Like, take the rip pack out, start with, I just have gloves on. You go through, make some kind of connection, and you can see know what you're doing, making the connection maybe to a firefighter that's just standing right next to you and to their, their pack, however you do that. And then, okay, next time now or right after we do that, let's change it up. Now you're going to put gear on and you're going to be blacked out and they're going to be on the floor and you're practicing the same skill, making the same kind of connection. And then you do that. And then maybe you add a little more to it. Maybe you put them in a weird position where it's hard to get to their pack, or maybe there's something on top of them. And that's just kind of 3 different levels where you up it a little more. And now they have some confidence. And maybe you group that also the next time with finding them and without being able to see, and just build on stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of value in just practicing without being able to see. And I probably don't do it enough. Just moving around objects and just that in general, communicating, like, figuring out, how to communicate with each other. Cause that can change too. And I mean, something I liked doing when we're doing that is, make like noise, like add noise to the environment. I mean, you could remember like trying radios and just trying to find static and blasting that as loud as I could just because it's noise. Or I mean, I've seen stuff where you do radio traffic from a Fireground and you just add that. Or I mean, it could be loud music. It could be anything just to make communication that much harder. Because it's
difficult.
It is. Yeah. It seems like it's difficult and there's a lot of other sounds and things going on. So just working through that and without a whole bunch of extra just layers to it, just doing it.
Well, I think the other thing is just becoming clear to me now, and maybe we can actually do this is like break down the variables of training, right? Because the problem is I think we add all of them all at once. So here's a few that are coming to my mind.
Yes.
Time. Okay. Speed. We talked about that. Blackout conditions. So low visibility or no visibility. Being on air. So air consumption and doing tasks. Being in gear. Loud noises that hamper communication, right? These are all training variables, but the problem is we do all of them at once. And what do we learn? What do we learn is maybe you as a drill and that our job is chaotic, but I think we knew that already. Do we take anything away from it? What I'd like to see in training is isolating some of these variables and working on them. And then, like you said, every once in a while, you work up to the big one where you put them all out there and you do it all and you see how it goes. But I feel like we do that too often. That's the bulk of our training is we do all of this complexity, big scenario, all of these training variables, blackout, on air, in gear, all at once. And I'm not saying that's not valuable. It is valuable every once in a while, just not every day, the bulk of your training. I would like to see that we isolate some of these variables a little, and let's say today we're working in blackout conditions, or today we're working on doing this thing on air. Today we're working on, you know what I mean? And kind of like isolating those variables a little bit.
I agree. I do.
Yeah. And there's one last thing. I know we're getting to the end of this one here. It's, I love my little mnemonics and sayings and stuff, but one thing I try to keep in mind that I know works for me, and after having worked with rookies and everything, they agree is this little memory thing of showing a new skill. And it's tell me, show me, let me do it.
It's good.
And I think it's a good breakdown, right? So tell me, what are we about to do? Show me how the skill looks when done successfully, and then let me do it. And I think that's what I say that to myself sometimes when I'm doing a drill is tell them, show them, let them do it. So that was another little practical thing that I keep in my pocket that maybe it's useful for other people, or maybe you agree with that. So
yeah, that's good. That's good.
All right. That was a good one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I guess I'll put out a little plug for our Fireground company membership. Right now we're running a special. It's $8 a month, locked in forever for the first 50 members. These are founding members and slowly filling up. But it's a great thing if you have questions, stuff like this with training. How do I train my company? How do I handle this situation with this person? We answer those questions. You have an email address, you can send them directly to us, and we'll address them, give us information, and it's specific to your situation. I mean, and even if you don't have those questions, we answer them in the Insider podcast that you get as part of the membership. And every month we address at least 7 of those where we go through and you can learn stuff from other people's struggles, and what, we recommend you should try and do. And I mean, there's other stuff on there too. We got the link locker, like a PDF library, discount on some other stuff. So, check that out. Again, it also helps us out because we don't have a Patreon or anything like that. So it helps this going, all the background costs and everything else. But I mean, you get a lot of value out of it. So check that out at firegroundcompany.com.
Yeah. And I'm just going to jump on it. So the resources, we talked a lot about that question and answer and stuff, but there's some really cool resources on the other side of the membership, some PDFs, some stuff, just like really neat stuff that's useful, and we're adding to it all the time too. So check it out.
And the price is going up. So, I mean, get it now. This is the lowest it's going to be right now. So check that out.
All right.
Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for listening.
Check us out at firegroundcompany.com. You'll find links to all our social media accounts and our YouTube channel, and you'll stay up to date on everything we're working on. We also have a store on our website where you can support us as we grow this community, plus working on some great courses to help you strengthen your leadership in the fire department and support its traditions and culture. Last but not least, subscribe to the podcast, give us a rating, leave a comment, spread the word, get this out to the firefighters who are hungry to make the job even better. I got a question for you.
Okay. Let me drink my coffee. Go ahead.
All right. Since your name is Clint.
Yeah.
If you could only watch 3 Clint Eastwood movies, what would they be?
3 Clint Eastwood movies. Where Eagles Dare is a good one. And then Heartbreak Ridge is absolutely that makes the top 3 for sure.
Oh,
just
because
wow. I love that. And then no, see, 3 is tough.
Well, let's put it this way. You're on an island and that's all you can watch for the rest of your life.
Well,
because it's a little different than a good movie, like critically acclaimed versus I'm just going to watch this over and over. It's kind of, to me, I don't know, the way I was thinking about it is the movies if I see on TV, I'm like, I'm definitely going to watch no matter what, because I like watching that over and over.
Yeah. I mean, Heartbreak Ridge is the one for me. This is going to sound weird because it was later, but I really like Gran Torino.
Okay. I just was thinking of mine. I know, like, I can tell you. So mine would be Magnum Force.
Yeah.
Love Magnum Force.
But see, then you asked me last time which
it was like 4 or 5
of the Dirty Harrys. Yeah.
For me, Magnum Force, In the Line of Fire, and I was just
oh my gosh, In the Line of Fire.
I just forgot the 3rd one. It may be because I was kicking around. It was definitely In the Line of Fire, Magnum Force, and then I think I was kicking around Heartbreak Ridge, and there was another one I can't remember, but those are easy.
Right, so mine is In the Line of Fire, Heartbreak Ridge, and Gran Torino.
All right, cool. I just wanted to know what yours were.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've read a lot about him since then too. I got a book about him, and I almost came to know the man more than the actor because he's a musician too. So he writes and performs and plays music.
I know that's kind of weird.
He's a good piano player actually.
I can see that. I guess. He played the piano in Line of Fire.
Yeah, well, there's
probably work that in because
really
he liked that.
Yeah, and he actually works very closely with scoring his movies and things like that. So he's a brilliant director, obviously a great performer. He's one of those guys that didn't just rest on his laurels as being spaghetti western Clint Eastwood. You know, he developed a whole career, just a true icon of the movie industry. I'm very proud to share a name with him, and I think he got into some weird stuff in the late stages of his career, but Clint Eastwood is always cool.
Yeah, no, he always has a good showing, no matter what. Even if I don't like the movie, I'm like, he has a good showing. So anyway,
I'm proud of my namesake. I hope I could be half the man that Clint Eastwood is.
Fireground Company Podcast.